Hi, Garland Nixon here in the middle of the day. History tells us that it's not a good idea to fight Russia in the winter. I think this new war of economic attrition is going to prove that particular adage once again. Let's talk. Hi, Garland Nixon here. Don't forget, I'm also on Rockfin. You can go to rockfin.com/Garland Nixon. Follow me there just in case they toss me off for one reason or another, just in case they toss me off of YouTube. Okay, so let's talk about this. History tells us what? That whether it's Napoleon or Hitler, that when Russia is involved in some kind of a military engagement in the winter, it works to their advantage. I once watched this documentary about that, and they talked about little things like when the Russians were fighting the Germans in the winter, small things. For instance, when the oil that they used for their guns, they added a little bit of kerosene or gasoline or some kind of a thinner to it, and it was so cold that the German guns would freeze up from the oil and wouldn't fire as well. And the type of long johns, the type of long underwear they wore was more effective, and all of these things from living in that cold, they had certain advantages. Okay, so we know that, anybody who knows anything about history knows Russia in the winter, they're going to have certain advantages. I'm going to make this argument that in this new hybrid kind of warfare, particularly in the case of the European, the EU and NATO, that Russia has I'll put it like this. They've got considerably greater advantages this winter, I think, than they did even against Napoleon and Hitler. Let me explain why. A couple of things. Let's be clear about it. The United States, not NATO. NATO is an umbrella organization that the United States uses to corral its vassals together in the EU, and so it can utilize the power of attorney for their foreign policy. It's nothing but a little room. To use a metaphor, it's a room. It is a room that it brings together the vassal puppets. They're not leaders of any individual countries. They do what the hell they're told by the U.S. empire, nothing more, nothing less. So it brings a bunch of vassals together in a room, and it says, do what I tell you, no matter how detrimental it is to your citizens. And they say, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. And then it says to them, now I want you to go out and I want you to compete. I want you to compete amongst each other to see which puppet can dance the highest, to see which puppet can tap dance the most for the master. And then the so-called leaders, but the puppets of the Europe, they take turns tap dancing to see who can impress their master the most. Right? I want you to destroy your economy. We'll destroy our economy twice over. I want you to screw your citizens. We'll screw them 3 times over. And then whatever the U.S. says, when it says, perhaps we should have some sanctions against Russia, then the puppets jump up. No, 10 times, 100 times more sanctions. We got to. So one of the jobs of the puppets is to do what they're told under the NATO umbrella. The other is to tap dance and try to impress the master. Then none of them. It's obvious now that these NATO countries have no agency whatsoever, and that their job is to be sucked dry by their master, and that's what they do. It's almost like the vampire movie where the vampire calls the victim's still alive, and the vampire's bitten the victim once. And then the vampire calls the victim out to the victim, kind of subliminal. I don't know what the hell it's how they do it. But the victim comes to the vampire, bends over, points right there, bite me in the neck. And the vampire says, well, certainly, I'd love to, and bites him in the neck. That's what the job of the European leaders, to come to its master and say, drain me of my resources, drain me of my energy, drain me of everything. We'll do everything to keep the master alive. And the master is weak, and the master is in deep and serious trouble. So the master is now just living off the blood of the vassals. Unfortunately for the people of Europe, it's not the leaders, because they're going to be living fat and off the hog no matter what, but they're sacrificing their people. And that's going to benefit. I'm going to get into why that's going to benefit Russia. But let me show you something right now. Let me give you an example. Right. Let me give you an example. Let's go here. I'm going to share this with you. Okay. Let's take England, for instance. You go to England, and here's what you see. Look at this. Soaring UK inflation tops 9%, fuels labor unrest, right? So the people are unhappy. They're being taken to the cleaners, and they're out in the street. United Kingdom has seen the start of the biggest national rail strike in 30 years. Other groups of workers, bus drivers, garbage collectors, teachers, had already walked out. Teachers and postal workers and some government-funded lawyers are planning to withhold their labor. So it's a mess. It's a mess. The unrest has been triggered by inflation, currently raging at 9%. As in the United States, the main causes are external: the war in Ukraine, blah 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 blah. Okay, so we see the people saying the prices have gone, the gases, electricity, astronomical, absolutely ridiculous, and they've got to do something about it. This is what the protesters say, right? So, in a regular democracy, what is the job of the government? It is to respond to the people, right? It is to say, "Uh-oh, we got big problems. The people are unhappy. We got to act." But not with NATO and the EU. Remember, the so-called leaders of the NATO and EU countries' job is not to look out for their citizens. It is to tap dance for the master and do what they're told. It is to keep the master alive. Their citizens are nothing but um, chess pawns to be played and sacrificed for the king and queen. In the same way that the lives of the Ukrainians are being sacrificed to for whatever hopefully to hold on hegemony and world power, which is already gone for the U.S. enterprise. That's the same job as the citizens of the EU. Means nothing else to them. So let's go forward. So we got that. So the people are in the street. They're unhappy. Now let's look into this one. So you would think that in a democracy, right, in a representative government of some type, in a responsible government, the job of Boris Johnson is now to say, I'm going to deal with that. Well, let's see what Boris Johnson says. Johnson says inflation is a price worth paying to defend the Ukraine. Now, keep in mind, his people say something has to be done. It's absolutely ridiculous. That's what the people say. The leader says, it's worth it. Boris Johnson has said soaring inflation linked to sanctions on Russia are a price worth paying, as he compared Vladimir Putin's regime to the Nazis. He told journalists during today's G7 summit in Germany that the economic effects of not helping Ukraine would be worse than what the Ukraine is facing. Let's look at these two things. The people. The way the prices have gone, the gas, electricity, astronomical, absolutely ridiculous, and they've got to do something about it, protester Barry Todman said, right? And the leader says, it's worth paying. Screw you. Go to hell. That's what Boris Johnson says to the people of the UK. Go to hell. Shut up. It's a price worth paying. I'm rich. I'm powerful. I'm going to be living pretty good. I ain't going to be hurting. Now, as for you, your standard of living is toast. You're done. Your history. Who cares? Gives a rat's ass about that. We got to deal with Ukraine right now. And why does he want to deal with Ukraine? Because his masters have told him to deal with Ukraine. And the people of the UK are to be sacrificed. The people of the UK don't understand that yet. The people of the EU don't understand that. These idiots are still flying around, running around with their blue and yellow flags, saying, hey, yay, we got to support Ukraine. Little do they know that they're being burned for fuel. They are, you know what they are? They are the bullets. You know what you do with a bullet? You fire it, the bullet goes down range, and then the casing that it was in flies aside, and you throw it. The bullet is expendable. You expend ammunition. That's what the people of the EU are. That's what the people of the UK are, and they don't get it. They are ammunition, and they are expendable. And now, at least they've started to wake up and say, look, something's wrong, but they haven't put two and two together to say, we want out of this Ukraine stuff. No, because they're still got their blue and yellow flag. We hate the Russians. Well, good enough for you. If you're going to hate the Russians and we've got to go against the Russians, well, then that's a price to pay. And as Boris Johnson said, it's a price worth paying. Apparently, a lot of the people in the UK and throughout the brainwashed propagandized masses of the EU, a lot of them have been right behind this thing, and now they're getting what they got coming to them. However, I would argue this, that they're starting to wake up. So the leaders in the EU and NATO, and even here in the US empire, they got a surprise coming, because I believe that the people in the EU and the people in the EUK are just starting to wake up. They will wake up. When they wake up, they'll realize that they've been had, and they're not going to be happy. Now, it may be too late for them, but they ain't going to be happy. So let's continue. Let's look here. Britain threatens to cut off gas to the EU. The European Union is facing more gas supply uncertainty as Britain has threatened to cut off its gas flow to the continent should it face a severe shortage. So, isn't that funny? Here, the Russians have cut like 60% of the gas going to the EU. And now England's saying, man, if our gas gets tight, EU, bad news for you. You get nothing. The UK ain't gonna be in much better shape. A bunch of idiots all together. And I'm talking about the leaders, not the people. They're gonna kind of get what they got coming to them. But you know, maybe they'll wake up. And when I say coming to them, it's not that I have any disdain for the people of the EU. I have love for the people of the EU, and I feel sorry for the people of the EU. But allowing this to happen and continuing to vote for Macron and these different people and not being in the street, they're going to get just like us. I'm in the US. A flock of morons here. We've been supporting the Democratic and the Republican Party, and we're going to get what we got coming to us. We've been running around. We got to support the blue team, no the red team, and we're going to get what we got coming to us. We're going to get what we've earned, and so are the UK people. And a lot of idiots running around with these blue and yellow flag pins and blue and yellow flag bull crap on their social media outlet thing. Good. See if you can spend that for a $10 a gallon gas. See how that works for you. They'll wake up one day. I believe they're already starting to wake up. And that's the problem, because when people start taking to the streets, they're starting to wake up. They're going to tear the UK. They're going to tear the EU from one end. They're going to tear it to shreds. I believe that's going to happen. Okay, let's continue. What am I talking about? I'm talking about 2023 being advantageous to the Russians. Here's what I think. And I'm going to put myself for 1 second, put yourself in a position of you're the leader of Russia. Vladimir Nixon, as it were, which kind of almost sounds Russian. But in any way, so now I'm the leader of Russia. A couple of things. These morons in the EU are like, we're going to stop Russian gas. We want to cut everything off from Russia. And Russia is building a huge pipeline to go to China called the Power of Siberia. And my understanding is it's going to somewhat equal the amount of gas that goes to the EU. So if I'm Russia, I'm looking at that saying, you don't want my gas? You don't want my oil? You know what? Here's what I do. I continue to sell it to them for now. Why is that? Because I'm building up my money. And here's what I'm doing. I know if I'm now, remember, I'm the head of Russia for the sake of argument for this. I already know that by winter or so, I've already projected it out. They've recently said a year that at some point, I'm going to control everything that I want to control in Ukraine. I'm going to have taken it. I'm suspecting, and if you watch my videos, you already know, I'm suspecting that at some point the Ukrainian military and or political system will fall in a sudden collapse, as opposed if they were able to negotiate, it would be one thing, but that day is done. For those in the East, for those in the West who believe somehow they can change what the Russians are going to do, and that they can at some point, they just wake up one day and say, you know what, I've decided that I want to negotiate, and that the Russians are going to go along with that. Good luck. I think if there was any chance of the Russians negotiating, which there was very little, into a deal, if there was any chance of the Russians negotiating a deal, when Petro Poroshenko, the former president of Ukraine, came out and said the Minsk Accords, the deals that the U.S. made in 2014, the U.S. empire, and made in 2014 with Ukraine, that included the UK and Russia and Germany, right? When the former Ukrainian president, who was a U.S. puppet, Petro Poroshenko, came out recently and said, when we made those deals, it was all a lie. The only reason we did it was to hold Russia off until we could build our military up. It was, as I've said before, it was like saying that diplomacy is the art of saying nice doggy until you get a rock. You want to bash that dog in the head, but you don't want to bite him to bite you. So you're like, nice doggy, nice doggy. You're a nice doggy. I like you, doggy. As you're reading, you finally get up a rock, bam, you slam in the head and kill him. Right? You were deceiving the dog long enough to get a weapon. That's what Petro Poroshenko said. We deceived Russia. Yeah, we told them we never intended, never intended to institute the Minsk Accords. And as Russia was saying, are you going to institute the Minsk Accords? And we just brushed them off. It was because of this. We intended to fight them, and we were building our military up to do it. So that being said, knowing that now, Russia knows that. There's no chance. If the U.S. says, if the U.S. empire's puppets come to Russia and say, we want a deal, Russia's going to say, sure, unconditional surrender, recognition of everything we want recognized, give us everything we want. Other than that, we don't need a deal. You do. We're winning. The winner doesn't need a deal. The loser does. So otherwise than that, I mean, I know that's a little harsh, maybe a little more than you want to go with. So have a nice day. We're not negotiating this thing. Call us back if you want that. Give us everything. And if you don't call us back. We're going to continue what we're doing. Now, okay, so Russia knows probably at some point within the next several months, I believe the Ukrainian government and or military collapses. It's going to fall flat. There's no off ramp for them. And at some point, let's face it, sadly, they run out of people. They're sending every schmuck they can get their hand on straight to the front to be turned into mincemeat by Russian artillery. Sad state of affairs. But at some point, the reality is Ukraine's going to run out of people. And the only thing that the U.S. is going to have left is a narrative. Yeah, the Russians blew up a school. Oh, the Russians did this. Oh, the Russians aren't really winning. They're really losing. They're going to have some narratives, nothing more, but Ukraine is going to collapse. And let me ask you this. As we move into next winter, what does Ukraine do for fuel? That's no money. The U.S. is going to have to heat and feed Ukraine, which it does now, and pay all the salaries of Ukraine along with the U.S. Now, don't get me wrong. If they say to the EU, look, Boris Johnson, Olaf Scholz, here's what you guys are going to do. Do you have enough money to feed your people? And they say, just enough. Good. Take that money and give it to Ukraine. But my people will starve. Yeah, did I stutter? What part of give that money to Ukraine did you not understand? That's what Biden will say to Schultz and all of those. And they'll say, sir, yes, sir, my people will starve, sir. And they'll starve their people and give every dime to Ukraine. And the people in Russia will be fat and full of food and warm. The people in Ukraine will be getting their food. They ain't going to be happy. But sorry, if you're in the UK or Italy or one of those, you get sacrificed. Okay, so what happens? What I think I do if I'm in charge of Russia is I keep selling them this energy. And I build my financial reserves. That's what Russia's doing. They're building building their financial reserves, right? I keep building. Russia's flush with money, and I keep getting flush. And what else has Russia done? Russia has cut Europe's, and this I do the same. That Russia has cut Europe's flow of gas by somewhere up around 60%. And what we now have learned is that they're sending less gas to Europe, but it's driven the price up so high that they're actually making the same or more money from even though they've cut it by 60%, because they've driven the price up high. Now it's causing massive pain to the European populace. But if I'm Russia, that's part of my plan. This is a war. It's a war. It's full spectrum war, and you're going against me. What you've decided is you don't want to get in a face-off shooting war with me per se. You want to let the Ukrainians die and get their bodies blown to pieces. You're going to waste Ukrainian lives like nothing, but you don't want to get in the war. You want to do a war of attrition and underhanded full spectrum economic war. So if I'm Russia, I say I can do that, play that game too, because I got a lot of things you need. But what I'm going to do is, US, I'm going to punish Europe. I'm not going after you. You know, I was trained in a lot of things. I remember some of the training I got was organized crime, terrorism, stuff like that. And one of the things they taught is if you're going against a terrorist cell or an organized crime group, right, you find out who's who and where's where, and there's certain places you can attack, right? There's certain areas you can attack. You can attack the communication between levels. You can attack. So you got an organized crime or a terrorist cell. You can attack them through the communication lines. Get in the communication lines. You can also attack them financially. Cut their money off. How do you cut their money off? Figure out how to do that, right? So you pick up a weak area and you go after that weak area. So if I'm Russia, I'm like, you know what? I know what the weak area is. The weak area is the EU, and I got a stranglehold on them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start now. Since I'm continually making money, I'm going to prep in case I get cut off for them from gas. Who cares? I'll just keep packing my money up till I got a couple years, till I got a year or two that here's what I'm saying. The power of Siberia pipeline is going to open to China at some point. If I'm Russia, I'm saying I want to make sure I got enough money to ride me out until that power of Siberia pipeline is full, right? Even if it's got to be a little tight, I want enough money to ride it out. Then I can now punish Europe. So I start by doing what they've done. Well, we got some maintenance problems, and we're going to have to cut your cut your gas flow back. So they cut their gas flow back by 60%. Now in July, I don't know if you know it, the Russians are actually going to, they said, we've got to do maintenance on our gas pipelines. Europe, we're cutting you off for 10 days. I think that's another elbow. As in baseball, they call it chin music or brushback. What does that mean? That means when a batter is up on a plate, he's crowding the plate. And what is he doing? As he crowds the plate, as he gets closer to the plate, he makes the strike zone where the umpire calls balls and strikes smaller because he's crowding the plate. And what a pitcher will do is if he's got really good control, he'll come up close to him. They call it chin music, chin high. One goes by and backs him off the plate because he's afraid he's going to get hit by a fastball going right at his head, right? So they throw some chin music, a brushback pitch, get off that plate, back off, stop crowding the strike zone, right? That's what I think Russia does in July. It is, I'm cutting you back. And in July, I'm cutting you off from 10 days because I want you to see what it's like. I just want to let you know, you're not cut off, but if you were, this is what it would feel like. Now, let me say this. I ain't guaranteeing that come July, that when those 10 days are up, that Russia's going to cut them back on. I'm not guaranteeing that. I mean, think about this for a second. The EU is saying to Russia, we're going to destroy you. We're going to wipe your economy out. We're going to send people to kill the Russians. We got to kill more Russians, and we got to destroy your economy and tear you to shreds, right? So you're saying to me, I'm going to destroy your economy. I'm going to tear you to shreds. I'm going to kill your people. Boy, I'm really going to wipe you out. What do you think I'm going to do? What do you think I'm going to do? You think I'm going to chat about it? You think I'm going to go, let's tell you guys, let's work things out. And I tell you what, you can have all the gas you want. Would you like a discounted price? No, that the hell ain't going to do. I'm coming out, man, throwing bolos, whoa, elbows to the freaking chin if I can get away with it, right? So I think the Russians are first, and keep in mind, I think what the West part of the problem that the West is having, NATO, is a lot of that is they're not thinking a lot of this through. They're just wildly throwing everything shotgun approach, right? Throw everything up against the wall and see if anything sticks. And I think that's what they're doing with Russia. They do this. They're like, okay, we're going to institute economic sanctions in this area. And then it doesn't work and it backfires. Oh, crap. How about this area? And they're just trying one after the other, hoping that one of them will work. I don't think that's what the Russians are doing. That's what I wouldn't be doing that. What I think the Russians are doing is something else. And that is they're saying, we're going to take our time. We're going to look where we can make a move, but we don't want to hurt ourselves. See, the NATO, the idiots are screwing themselves. The Russians are like, we don't want to hurt ourselves. We're going to take our people into account, how much they can deal with. We're going to take long-term into account, how we can maintain some level of economic stability over the long term. So if we jam one into them, we want to make sure that we can recover it. So I think what the Russians are doing is, I think they're going to continue to sell stuff to the West and just save the money, save and save and save. And you notice they're selling much more to China, much more to India. Basically, China's doing everything they can to keep Russia in good shape. They're buying everything they can from Russia. Everything they can buy that they need that Russia sells, they're buying it. China wants Russia to be strong. So Russia is good. And with China at their back, China's a huge, powerful country. China's not going to let Russia fall, because they know they're next. So you're not in an economic war with, in the same way that the U.S. is sees the Ukrainians as a proxy, and they're giving them weapons and things like that so that they can fight the Russians. China, but sees Russia in a way as a proxy, but Russia knows, but they're not lying to the Russians. They're saying to the Russians, these people are coming after you, which means if they're coming after you, they're coming after us. We got your back. And Russia's like, cool. Where the U.S. is saying to Ukraine, nah, you guys are, you go out there. They've lied to them all along. They've lied to everybody. They've lied to the Russians, lied to Ukrainians, and they're lying to the Europeans. They lied to everybody. They just want to keep hegemony, and they're willing to sacrifice everybody to do it. The Chinese aren't sacrificing the Russians in this proxy economic war. They're supporting the Russians. They're empowering the Russians. So the Chinese are saying, and the Indians too, the Chinese and the Indians really are saying to the Russians, you want money? We can benefit by buying stuff from you at a good price. You can benefit. Let's keep it going. So Russia has a huge, powerful economic pact behind it. Very powerful. And meanwhile, what Russia has is a plan. They're building bricks. They're putting together a currency that will challenge the dollar. They are looking at this long term with China and India and Iran. So these other people have an economic plan. The neocons don't have an economic plan past 4 p.m. this afternoon. Their economic plan is hope. Let's do this and hope it works. If that doesn't work, we'll do this to Russia and hope it works. So what I see is with Russia, if in July they turn, what I would do is I would turn for 10 days, I would turn it off in July. I would turn that gas off for 10 days and might bring it back on just to give them a hint. And maybe come August, might have to do another 10 days of maintenance. You never know. Turn it off again. You guys are not going to fill your tanks up. You guys are not going to share with Poland and these other companies that they say they can't pay in rubles because you're not going to have enough. And by the time it starts getting cold, slowly but surely, your people will be in the street. I'm going to have I'm going to have your people in the street. You're going to have your people in the street. So as the winter time comes, all hell's going to be breaking loose in the EU. All hell is going to be breaking loose as winter comes. And again, this is going to be advantageous to Russia. If we look at this as the war on the ground, forget it, it's over. Russia wins that, Ukraine collapses. Now what we're talking about is the real war, And add this, in the real war, one of the things that the U.S. wants is World War II revisit. So after World War II, what happened? The European Union, the European was flat, so there was no industrial competition. If the U.S. could, they do that. They wipe out the European competition industrial. If they could, they'd like to get something like that going in Asia and wipe out China and wipe out Japan and Korea, wipe out all of their industrial options, so they can wipe out all of their so-called competition, which would be both friend and adversary, both adversary and so-called vassal ally. Wipe them all out and keep going. And now it's 1946 again. All of your adversaries, economic adversaries, are wiped out from the World War, and you're the only one still going. You're empowered. So that would be their plan. Ain't gonna work so well this time, because their economic adversaries are much more powerful and much smarter. And you're not run by FDR. FDR wouldn't do that anyway. You're now run by Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Victoria Nuland. You are screwed. You're running by you're run by incompetent ideologues. That's economic suicide. Okay, so let's keep moving. So what happens? Vladimir Nixon is in charge of Russia, just for the sake of this argument. So I say, I'm going to make your lives very, very uncomfortable in the summer. Now, in the fall, I'm going to dial back a little bit more. Not but so much. I'm going to dial that gas back. I'm going to dial other things back, right? Keep in mind something. The EU has said in 6 months, which is what? July, August, September, October, November, December, right? In the middle of winter. Or if you say last year, the week they did it, so let's say December, November. The beginning, middle of winter. Somewhere when winter is really raging, that they've said they're going to stop getting any oil at all. They will cut off all oil from Russia. If I'm Russia, again, I don't say nothing. I keep going. I keep elbowing. I keep cutting back a little bit, saying I got to do maintenance on pipelines here and this and that, cutting that stuff back, right? And I'm saving every dime I can. And that's what they're doing. Russia's loaded with money. Now what happens? When winter hits, I say to them, okay, oh, that's right. That's right. If I'm not mistaken, you guys passed some rules in the EU that you're going to cut off all oil supplies from us. Let's say it's the 15th of December, right? Isn't that what am I right, guys? Yeah. All right. No problem. I'm cutting them off. No problem. I mean, I understand. Hey, you don't want our fuel oil anymore. Whatever. I tell you what, no problem. We shut everything down on that date. Now, you didn't say that, and you can't do it. Recently, there was a hot mic moment, I believe, either at the G7 or NATO, where Macron was talking to Biden, and Macron said to Biden, well, we tried to talk to the UAE. They said they're at capacity when it comes to oil. They said the Saudis may, in 6 months, be able to provide 150,000 barrels a day. But, that ain't going to get it done for the EU. And they got so many other problems. I mean, look, their refineries are all tuned to Russian Ural crude. And now you're going to take a different kind of oil and start filling your refineries with that. That's not the way it works. Refineries can get tuned to a particular chemical makeup of oil. You're going to have to change it. Okay, we're getting this chemical makeup. And then when you get this new new oil that's a different kind, thicker or thinner, whatever the case may be, right? When you get this new oil, you have to get a steady supply of that oil. You've now tuned your refineries to a particular kind of oil. You can't just say, I'm going to get this kind of oil with shipments of this and that and this, and all these different oils will come in and we'll just mix them all together in the refinery. That's not the way that equipment works. It gets tuned to a specific chemical makeup and or blend of oil, and you got to be ready for that. Well, the EU has not been able to find the oil, and they ain't going to be able to, so they're not going to be able to replace Russian oil. B, if they could, they would have to replace it with a steady supply of the same kind of oil. And last but not least, they would have to retune their refineries to ensure that all their refineries work with this new blend of oil, and that new blend of oil would have to keep coming for years and years and years to come. They have been unable to find oil to replace the Russians. B, if they do, then it's going to take probably years to retune their refineries so that they can do that. And C, and add this, they're used to getting oil through like pipelines and things like that from Russia, and now it's all going to come in by ship. You need more ships. Are the ships available to do that? Are the shipping lines available to do that? Is the infrastructure available to transport that oil to the EU? And once it gets to the EU, to offload it and get it to the refineries? They don't. It would take years and years to completely change the distribution and refinery methods for the entire EU. And the idea that 6 months from now, they're going to cut off for Russian oil, and they don't even have a replacement for Russian oil, and they can't find one. They won't find one. If the Saudis can't pump more, nobody can. So and it may be, let's face it, the Saudis already said Russia's an OPEC +1. We're going to support them. It may very well be, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Saudis and the UAE and the other OPEC countries just said, nah, Russia's one of us. It's an OPEC. We ain't bailing them out. And besides, the price will go through the roof and we'll make more money. Why would we? It's not economically feasible for them to do something that's going to lower the price of oil. Keep the price sky high as long as we can. We can make a fortune off of you idiots. That's what they're doing. Hey, that's what you do with idiots. As P.T. Barnum said, it's a crime against God and nature to allow a sucker to keep his money. Same with idiots. If idiots want to pay you double or triple for a commodity, you sell it to them. You don't bail an idiot out. They're idiots. That's what they got coming. That's what they deserve. And that's what the leaders of EU have coming. Now, come winter, I'm Russia. Okay, it's 6 months is up. You're cutting off you said you were cutting off my oil in 6 months. No problem. On that date, I'll cut it off. Now you got to come to me and say, well, Vladimir Nixon, perhaps in hindsight, we were just a smidgen hasty with this old cutting oil off, amongst friends. I mean, hey, people say things. Sometimes they get a little angry. Perhaps we could stretch this whole cutting Russian oil off, maybe 10 years or so. And if I'm then, I'm like, I can't hear you. I'm too busy trying to figure out why you guys won't recognize Ukraine. Can't hear you. Hello? Huh? Can't hear you guys. That's what I say if I'm the Russians. Can't hear you. You're SOL. Next, guys, I noticed you guys don't have any gas stored up in your underground facilities, and you're running short. And those maintenance problems we had for 10 days in July and August? Yeah, the sanctions are burdensome on us, and we got to keep our people warm. Our Russians got to be snugly warm. So here's what we're going to do. We're cutting your asses off effective yesterday. Oh, by the way, we didn't tell you yesterday. If you wondered yesterday why you turned on the taps for gas and there was no gas, yeah, we turned you off effective yesterday. Click. I'm hanging up. Now, when they call back, I'm sitting there filing my nails. The phone's ringing. It's the EU, and they're calling to beg for oil. And I'm like, la 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 la. I'm filing my nails. I'm playing. I'm putting a puzzle together. You know, if I'm Vladimir, I'm practicing my blocks. Boom, and here in my high block, I'm practicing my martial arts. Can't talk to you guys right now. Got to go ride a horse. I'm riding a horse with no shirt on. I'm doing all of this stuff. Sorry, can't pick up the phone. I'm too busy struggling. Remember, you're destroying me in Ukraine. Just try not to get destroyed in Ukraine. HIMARS rockets are flying over my head. Got to duck the HIMARS rockets, guys. But your ass is not getting any gas from me. See, I want to create an acute problem for them. I don't want it chronic. I want to continue to send the message throughout the fall. Things could go bad for you. I want the people upset. I want the people pissed off. I want all this to go. And then I'm going to create an acute problem that you don't have a way out of. In December, January, in the most raging part of the winter. Might do it before then. I'm cutting it off. I'm cutting off gas. I'm cutting off oil. Hey, we'll buy it in rubles. No, you won't buy it in rubles, guys. I don't think you understand what's going on here. I ain't selling you no gas. All right, what do you want? Oh, want? No, remember that whole part about President Vladimir Nixon? We're going to destroy your economy. We're going to wipe you out. You must be tried before the Hague and blah 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 blah. Yeah, you go on and you go online and you make a speech to your people and you tell them it's worth it. You guys go get a blanket. Take that blue and yellow flag and wrap yourself in it. Use it for a blanket to keep warm because it's all over. Game over. You lose. Now, if you want gas and things like that again, if you want us, it's not that you're not going to get gas. You have to fix the relations with us. And I already gave you a list of things I want last December. Get the hell off of my border. And here you go. You're going to have to recognize Crimea, this and that. Ukraine's going to be, if you want to do that, and I'm not saying you should, probably shouldn't. It's a little too onerous for you. That's too much. So I understand, guys. I'm not trying to, push you into doing something that you feel is wrong. You've got to stick with your principles. I always say a man's got to, or a woman's got to stick with their principles. So here's what we're going to do. Here's my list of things. Oh, by the way, you get no gas, no oil, no fertilizer, no nothing. You are cut off. Sorry, I can't look west. I'm looking east. I got things over here to sell. And I've saved up a lot of money from you idiots and suckers that you've been overpaying me for gas and things like that. I've saved that all up and I've had enough. You can come to me begging and you can say, I'll give you everything you want if you turn our gas back on and start selling us fertilizer and food again. That's option A. Option B, there is no option B. You get nothing. And we're okay with it. We've moved on. Time for you to move on. Remember all the talk about you were going to get other gas and all that, and you find other ways. Yeah, put your money where your mouth is. Buy, bam, hanging up. And in reality, if I'm in charge, I'm not. I have already saved money. I already planned. I'll make it through the winter. You know what I know? Your industry's shut down. You know what I know? Inflation goes through the roof. Here's what else I know. What the hell's going to happen to the price of gas? What's going to happen to the price of energy? I've cut it off from you. The rest of the world's going to pay more. Everybody's going to pay more. So I'm going to sell less. I'm not selling to you, and I'm going to make more money. And there's a big market for it. And I've saved money, and I've planned with whatchamacallit. So I've created a couple of things at this point. I've created an acute emergency in the EU that only I can solve. And I've got them over a barrel 10 miles high. I've created an acute emergency within the United States empire because now the U.S. empire has a bunch of vassals that are saying, we can't take this. I've created an acute political emergency because the people in these countries are going to say, fix it and fix it now. Or, what difference will it make if they go to the streets? They might as well. They're going to be just as cold at home as they are in the streets. It is not manageable. It is not a manageable crisis, which means the entire elite ruling class is going to get wiped out if you don't fix it. And I'll have a new elite ruling class. And that elite ruling class will know what time it is, since this one didn't. So the U.S. is going to have to manage a bunch of people from all over Europe calling them saying, we got to get Russian gas tomorrow. And the U.S., the neocons are going to say, no, don't do it. And they're saying, they're going to say, you don't understand. They're going to cut our friggin' heads off, and not metaphorically this time. We're out. We're going to have to leave the country. They're outside the palace gates with pitchforks. That's literally, they're going to have physical danger. That could happen. So you've created a disaster, a disastrous crisis for the U.S. empire. Now the U.S. empire, what are they going to do? They're going to say to the U.S., to the EU, which is what they'll do, just deal with it. And the EU is going to say, we can't, or you're going to have to talk to the next people in charge. They're running. We're going to get on the next plane out of this country because they ain't going to hang us and cut our heads off. So that's what I do. I wait till December. And then I say, you said 6 months, you're going to cut the gas off. That's what the EU has currently said. In 6 months, we're going to stop taking taking oil products from Russia. And I put a date on that. I look at the date you passed that, and I don't say anything to you, but I put a date on it. If that date's December 15th, then I say, okay, I'm not saying anything to them. December 15th, I'm cutting this bullshit off. And as December 16th, I cut it off. When they call and say, we're not getting any oil from you guys, I want to say, don't you remember May 16th or whatever date it was when you said that you're cutting us off? We read that. We saw that. So we just figured, hey, we haven't heard from you. You haven't heard from us. Yeah, move on. Have a nice life. And then at that point, let me put it to you like this. Martial arts. There's a couple of things. And again, there's options, the least or aggressive option, right? Let me give you a couple of philosophical options in self-defense and martial art. Option one is, I don't want any trouble. I don't want any trouble. When the person attempts to attack you, you defend. Option two is, I don't want any trouble, and put your arms out and determine a space. And if at some point you determine there's no way around it, this person's going to attack me, you reserve the right to strike first because you want to win, right? So to that extent, I'm thinking at this point from the perspective of a martial artist, or just a person who's taking self-defense, whatever, is, you know what? I want to strike first. I'm going to deliver the blows. I'm going to deliver the punches, right? I'm not going to take the punches. I may get some, but if I can deliver them first, I'm winning it. If I get the first shot in, I'm going to win, because it ain't, again, also, it's not going to be one shot. It's going to be a combination. It's going to be strike, boom, 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 boom. You're getting 5. And they're going to keep coming until you get out of the way. You'll see a person sometimes on what they're trying to do on MMC and stuff like that, right? If there's a fight, if you see a great fighter get somebody on the ropes, he's going to keep throwing combinations. Why is it? If you get somebody in trouble, you don't punch them and wait and back off to see what happened. You keep hitting and striking until this fight's over. Either they're down on the ground and they're out of the fight and you can retreat, or they're running trying to retreat. So at that point, if I'm Russia, I'm going to say, oil, that's cut off. Other commodities that you need, done. Gas, I'm sorry, can't help you with that either. I'm going to throw a series when I make my move in winter, I'm going to throw a series of punches, and I'm going to have a series of body blows. Also, I'm not cutting off Finland. They get electricity from Russia. Who else? I think Lithuania gets 60% of their. I'm not touching it now. It all comes at the same time. I'm not touching it. I'm going to say, you sons of bitches, you wait. You one of these days, you're going to get it, right? Or I'll just say, I reserve the right to take reciprocal actions or something like that. And see, by then, they think they've gotten away with it. They think they've walked. That way, when I do it, I throw all combinations. I'm cutting gas from you. You said you wanted to cut it. I'm cutting gas from you. I'm cutting oil from you. I'm cutting electricity from you. I'm cutting this, everything I can. Boom, 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 boom. I'm going to create a massive and acute crisis. Again, like self-defense. You come at me, I'm going to throw as many punches as I can. Boom, 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 until you back down, you fall down, you get hurt. I can then escape, or you're out of the fight. Something happened, but I'm throwing a lot of them. Knees, elbows, poking the eyes, you name it, right? It's got to keep coming. If you get a punch, A, you get the first punch in, and B, you don't stop throwing punches and fights and blows. And that's where I would be. I'd like, okay. And I think I would be preparing that, keeping in mind that I suspect sometime before that, in the next couple months, maybe even weeks, but probably at least by August, September, you're going to see the collapse of the Ukrainian military and or political structure, right? So that it's possible that you could have that circumstance coming early. You'd have to make some decisions early. I've got that set for whatever, December 15th, December 1st, whatever I've got that set for. But meanwhile, recognizing that as a secondary option, I might have to do it earlier if the politics and everything falls apart in Ukraine, and then the U.S. and all, they get stupid and they want to try to double down on something. Then I put it like this: I got some punches I want to throw then, but I want to wait for winter because that's my advantage. Because if I, even in August, September, if I start cutting things off, they got a little time to get ready. Even though they know they can't get ready, at least they got some time to think about it, to formulate a plan. I want to wait till it's cold as hell and they can't go a day. And I'm going to, the other thing is this, and this is what I think they're doing. I dial it down, right? Or leading it up to that, so that they can't store any extra. The people that won't pay it for rubles, the other countries don't have any, because like some of these countries that say we wouldn't pay for gas in rubles, but what they do is Germany buys some extra gas and they buy it off of them. So they still get Russian gas, but they just don't pay for it in rubles. So I dial down my gas flow so that you can't sell it to these other countries who want it in rubles, right? And who don't want to pay for it in rubles, but they still want it. And I make it tight. So you just got enough. I'm just giving you enough to survive, so that when I cut it off, you don't have another day. I've shut the flow down to you just got enough to make it. You got a couple days, so that when I say, okay, it's December 1st, and you want to destroy my, oh, that's right, you want to destroy my, I forgot about this. This is an economic war of attrition, and you want to destroy my economy, right? Okay, my turn. You've thrown a lot of punches. None of them landed. My turn. Click. Your gas and oil is off. And I've already planned this out. At that point, I game planned it out, so that I've game planned economically that I'm fine without your money, and that I can make it up until the power of Siberia comes on, and I replace that, right? And I leave you high and dry. And at that point, when you say you're not going to see, I can see the EU and the neocons. You're not going to twist our arm and force us to do anything. And I'll say, but yeah, I'm not trying to. So at any rate, that's fine. Talk to you later. Bye. Click. At that point, it's not that I'm doing it with the hopes that you'll come begging me to turn it back on, and then I can force you into a disadvantageous negotiation. No, I'm turning it off. I am turning it off. You screwed me. You threw punches. I'm throwing punches back. I'm not trying to get an advantage. I'm shutting you the hell off. Let me go with something else. So martial arts, right? One of the things you might do is grab somebody's fingers and twist them backwards, right? You grab them, you twist those fingers backwards, so you get that wrist and you boom, and you twist that wrist around, right? Now here's the question. You get the wrist and you go to twist, right? Do you twist and hyperextend it so the person goes down and you hold them in a submission hold? That's one idea, right? And the person says, no, and you say, are you going to stop? That's one thought, right? The other thought is you get that wrist and you break it. You don't want submission. You're going to break the wrist. Why? Because everything they have, that wrist is a weapon. I got my fist. That's a weapon. I got this fist. I got this. I can headbutt you. These are all weapons. I want to remove any weapon I can from the fight, right? So instead of twisting the wrist and putting you in submission hold, if you somehow get out of it, you can still punch me with that hand and utilize that wrist to fight. If I get that wrist and twist it, I ain't hyperextending it. I'm going as far as I can and snap that wrist. Now I've taken one of the fight, and now A, you're in pain, and so you can't fight as well, and B, you're running short of weapons to attack me with and to block with, right? So here's my point. If I'm shutting your gas off, I'm not doing that as a way to manipulate you into, like to get you in a submission hold so you get what we want. I'm breaking the wrist. So I say like this: you are attacking me economically. If I destroy your economy, you can't use the economics to attack me, can you? So I'm cutting you off, not to force you into a disadvantageous economic position, but to destroy your economy so that you can't use your economy as a weapon against me. So when you come back to me, I get that wrist and I twist it. You say, no, I'll do what you want. You may do what I want, but you're going to do it with a broken wrist. Snap. Now do you still want to fight? And if you come to me, wait, I got a broken wrist. Now I'm ready to negotiate. I may be, But you better not get that other wrist near me or something else or anything near me I can strike, because I'm going to do it because you've demonstrated your hostility towards me. So if I'm again in charge, I say I'm cutting your gas off, and you say, well, we'll talk because it'll destroy us. Yeah, it will. That was kind of the intent. But I may be willing to talk, not for a month. You haven't felt enough pain. I'm gonna cut your gas off. After you felt a month, after every pipe in Northern Europe has frozen and blown to pieces, after the people are out screaming on the street for your head, and you come back to me and say, hey, our economy is destroyed. The people are calling, are begging for mercy. Please, can we talk now? And I'll say, another month. Maybe at the end of the winter. Maybe next winter you'll have better sense than this. When I get finished with you, you ain't going to want to tangle with me again. See, that's what I understand, how I understand self-defense. If you attack me, my thing is this. When this fight's over, I don't want you to ever want to fight me again. And if I lose, I may lose, it could happen, but I want you to hurt so bad that you still don't want to fight me again, that you're like, I lost. I beat that guy, but he poked me in the eyes, boom, chopped me in the throat, elbowed me, broke my snoot, kneed me in the groin, stomped on my toes, twisted my fingers out of socket. He did everything he could. I won the fight, but I don't want to fight that guy again. It's too painful. And that's where I am. I'm saying, I don't want you to come back to me in 5 years and say, yay, we're now going to build Georgia up, and we'll fill that full of weapons and attack you. I want you to hurt so bad you don't ever want to fight with me again. And so at that point, from the perspective of self-defense or martial arts, you give them everything you got. And that simply means that you cut their asses off and you leave them cut off and you leave them suffer. And when they beg, you make them suffer some more. And when they come back crying, you make them suffer more until there's nothing left. And they're lying saying, I just water, please. They're lying on the fire, begging you for some water. And when they do that, you know what you do? You take that cup of water and you put it just out of their reach so that they'll suffer and suffer and suffer. I'm talking about the leaders. And then, and only then, after those leaders have been thrown out of office, you say to the next leaders, I'll talk to you. Once they've been thrown out of office, I ain't talking to these guys. I know who they are. And, it may sound harsh, but it could save nuclear war. It may sound harsh, yes, but it could save the lives of everybody left, of everybody in the EU and everybody in Russia and everybody in the world, because they don't get it. And the only way they're going to get it is pain. And that's, I don't know, maybe I'm some kind of vicious, evil, harsh, totalitarian leader, but that's what actually, I'm not. Actually, I'm not. Actually, if you know me, I'm a very, very kind-natured person. But if you attack me, I reserve the right to defend myself by any means necessary. They surrounded Russia. They surrounded them with bases. They surrounded Russia with what do you call it? Bio research labs. They wrote books of how they were going to tear Russia into shreds. They're now talking about taking Russia apart and decolonizing and decolonializing Russia and China, all this kind of stuff. You're talking about killing me and eating my flesh. Yeah, you ain't walking away from that one without some nasty injuries. And at that point, that's why I say the winter, if I'm Russia, I set everything up for the winter, but in the winter is when I strike. That's when I strike I've already won the war on the ground in Ukraine. I've already taken everything that I need, but you bastards haven't learned. You guys still think you're in an economic war, but you haven't been taking any hits. It's all outgoing fire. We fired mortars at them. We fired rounds at them. We fired tank, we fired everything, but you haven't had anything incoming. When it comes in, it's going to be nuclear. And I don't mean metaphorically nuclear. You fired all kinds of sanctions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think they're either up to 6th or 7th rounds of sanctions. Fine, you keep firing rounds of sanctions. I'm firing one, just one. And mine's going to blow your economy to smithereens. That's what I would do if I was in charge. Now, let me say this. My love for the European people and the Russian people, saying, I hope that doesn't have to happen. That the wise thing to see would be for the Russians and the Europeans to work out a deal, for the European leaders, for the European people to say, we can't stand these leaders anymore. We're going to put in some people who will stand up for us and who will look out for the European leaders. They don't have that right now. And unless the European people are able to stand up and replace the vile fiends that they have, that are throwing their lives and their future of their children to the dogs. Unless they replace them, they're going to suffer this. And to some extent, something like this is going to happen to piss the people of the Europe off, so they're not running around with a bunch of damn blue and yellow flags saying Slava Ukraine. That's friggin' Nazi. Slava Ukraine. That is literally a Nazi adage, a Nazi proclamation, and they're running around saying it. So there you go. If I'm in charge, next winter is you're screwed, blued, and tattooed, and I think that's what has to happen. I'd be surprised. I don't know. I would be surprised if the Russians weren't planning on making their economic move. They're just going to take their time through this Ukraine thing because they know time is on their side, and they're going to win bit by bit by bit. And at some point, this Ukraine thing collapses. This Ukraine project collapses. But the U.S. is probably going to say, like, we're going to have Zelensky in another country, Poland or wherever the hell, and we're going to have some other Ukrainian government in another country, some Juan Guaido type figure, and then we'll deal with Russia that way. If I'm Russia, I'm saying you can do that, yeah. But if he's in Europe, but if this group of expatriates that are going to be, quote, the Ukrainian government in exile, if they're anywhere in Europe, their asses are going to be cold. You better send them to the U.S. You better take them to Miami, because they ain't going to be comfortable in Europe, because nobody's going to be comfortable in Europe. If I'm Russia, I ended up by saying this: if I'm not comfortable in Europe, you ain't going to be uncomfortable in Europe. If you want to be uncomfortable in Europe, you better make me comfortable. And I'm not so sure if I'm Russia, I ever shut them back on. Because look, I'm just saying tactically, strategically speaking, you have said you want me destroyed. This is the third time. Every 100 years, there's Napoleon, then there's Hitler. Every 100 years, you got to come back to attack me. You know what? You're going to be a third world country this time. You set yourself up for this one. You ain't coming back no time soon, because you're going to be scrambling around eating each other. And I don't want to see that happen to Europe, because the option that creates is, once Europe falls economically into a third world backwater dystopian hellscape, at that point, what will happen is they're going to look at their leaders and they'll say, you sons of bitches got to go. And then there will be political change. So at any rate, I'm not saying anything against that. I love the people of Europe. I don't want to see them struggle. But now if somebody says this: the citizens of the EU will never turn against their leaders. They're too brainwashed. And if I'm again the head of Russia, they don't have to. I'm not doing it to make you turn against your leaders. That's up to you. I'm doing it because I had enough of your ass. And you fighting me, I'm fighting back. I'm not punching back to get anything out of you. I'm punching back because you hit me. And when you hit me, you're going to get punched back. And I'm punching back. And I'm leaving you. You're done. I'm leaving you laying on the ground. You're going to have to come to me. You're going to have to come with a plan to get energy back from me, because there's no way to fix that for Europe. It's over for Europe. Industry, I think it's over for Europe at this point anyway. I don't see how they recover from this. But whatever. But if I'm in charge of, if I'm the president of Russia, you damn sure ain't going to recover, not with the same Europe you got. So at any rate, that's it. I've had a lot to talk, a lot to say, but and it was fun. I want to remind everybody. Go to Rockfin. Let me put the let me share copy. So I'm going to put it in the, it's already in the show notes. I put the stream in the what do you call it? What the hell is that? In the comments, but it's rockfin.com/Garland Nixon. Don't forget a couple of things. I could get tossed for this kind of stuff and everything else. I could get tossed at any given day off of YouTube. So please, everybody, go to Rockfin, ROKFIN. Again, it's in the show notes, rockfin.com/Garland Nixon. Become a member or a subscriber. A subscriber's $9.99 a month. I would appreciate the more subscribers, the better. And you get to see my premium stuff, or anybody's and everybody's premium stuff on Rockfin. So please join Rockfin. gmail.com, either free as a member, but preferably it's $9.99 a month for a subscriber. It's worth it, and it helps me out. Additionally, I have my patreon.com/Garland Nixon for people. I don't care if you can do 1, 3, 5, or $100 a month. Anything you can do on Patreon is appreciated. PayPal.com. When you look in the show notes, I'm garlandin@gmail.com. That's my PayPal email address. So thanks for those who can help keep the channel going. Camilla V, Donna Gaffney, Woody, Al Qaeda, Coop W. Thanks a lot, Coop, man. Love you. Coop's always been around, and Coop and Camilla V and Chicken Patty and all my friends who are there all the time. Certainly appreciate you guys, and I appreciate everybody. Don't forget, do not forget, in the words of Alexander Mercoris and Alex Christoforis, smash that like button, smash that like button, smash that like button. And make sure you go to Rockfin. I need everybody here to be on my rockfin.com. Again, whether it's free as a member or $9.99 as a month as a subscriber, whatever you can do, I appreciate it. But at minimum, become a member. Make sure you click the little bell here on YouTube so that you can be a member here. Excuse me, so you can get notifications. Also, I'm on YouTube, I'm on BitChute, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Rockfin, but Rockfin's where I really want you to go. I'm really trying to build my audience there. So thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate it very much. Is there anything else? I think that's it. Oh, you can email me, garlandin@gmail.com. Peace. I'm out.